Well, good morning to you. We have a great lecture here for you today. Hopefully you joined in yesterday. And if you did, you saw resume renovation and all the ways to really rethink your career branding on that single sheet document, which is such an important sales brochure for you. Well, we have a little bit of construction going on outside of the studios. Hopefully that is not too much of a distraction and maybe hopefully too much leaking through the audio. So we'll see what happens there, but it is what it is. Today, we're going to talk about LinkedIn and how you use LinkedIn and its profile to really change the perception of your career branding, raise it to the level that really you know that you need to be at and be seen at. It's part of how you take control of the discussion of you. Now, we still have one more session this week. That is on Thursday, interview intervention at 10 a.m. Really, your job in the interview is to really just not answer questions. Well, yeah, I know it's a question and answer. And yes, we're going to use that device, that mechanism, but it's a conversation about really why you're the right one, a conversation that will teach them how to select you. So tune in for that. Now, if you've missed anything this week, you can see everything on my Facebook, on my YouTube channel, Self Recruiter, and over on my LinkedIn profile, depending on where you're watching. Let's jump in to today. Building your career brand with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. You're this product. We have to think of ourselves as this product as much as any product in any store that we might visit, or that product vying for attention as we walk down the supermarket aisle. And you have to decide which type of product would you like to be. Would you like to be that store brand, that little bit less cost? Oh, the price is very nice, but the label is always a little bit off. The coloring on the label is a little bit off. The taste is always just a little bit off. I like the price, but everything's a little bit off. Or would you rather be the Folgers, the Kellogg's, the Coca-Cola, reaching off the shelf and grabbing you for that attention? Brings us to a point of, let's not miss why we're interesting, what makes us tick, which may have something to do with our career itself, or maybe extra layers of interest about who we are as an individual. And we have to think about how to present that without it becoming something like a Facebook. Again, part of how to take control of the discussion of how people think about you. All of this is about influence, but especially with our LinkedIn profile and the social media components that come along with it once we build out the right profile. Now, I always talk about resume in terms of LinkedIn profile because we have these two marketing documents really about you. And yet we get confused as to what's their purpose, how are they used. Resume, in my view, and everything I'm teaching you is my opinion, is really about catching or piquing interest, drawing attention. Tends to be the first point of contact, not always, sometimes the great LinkedIn profile is, but tends to be the first point of contact. So has to contain the essence and value of your career. And in my view, has to be on a single sheet of paper in all cases. There's no exception. I don't care if you're a CEO and a COO before that and a CFO before that and 30 years of endless career. It fits on a single page. That's an editing issue. Now, LinkedIn itself, de facto social networking website for our work life, but it's more than that. It's also this communications, research, marketing, and advertising platform. Of course, a business person thinks of LinkedIn this way automatically, but you have to think of LinkedIn this way. This is something to manage your career brand forevermore, and you have to manage that, or your competitors will take those opportunities that you're looking for away from you. So when we look at LinkedIn's network, it's a 3-level network. It's very, very powerful. So let's imagine I connect to you. I'm the happy guy in the corner connecting to somebody else very, very happy. And no matter what they do to their settings, every one of their connections are also in John's pool. And no matter what they do to their settings, every one of their connections are also in John's pool. I get a 3-level network of individuals that I can see every bit of information about. And I can use that information in very, very interesting ways that will help my job search, help my career, help me even sometimes lift my own career branding when I see what others might be doing. Again, this is all about influence. This pool is also a pool of people I can influence. We're going to talk a lot about that today. If you haven't seen me before, author and career coach, resume guru, and LinkedIn guru as well, John Cant. Check out my Self Recruiter website. It'll help you a lot. If you're suffering from terrible career branding, which most really are, most are off doing great things with their work life, but then not really great storytellers in taking credit for it properly. reach out. All my information is over on the Self Recruiter website, and we can always chat before we move ahead. So a lot of the ideas are in my book. That'll help you a lot. You can check out Amazon for that. It kind of acts like a roadmap that will help you through many of the challenges in your job search or career, or even if you get the wrong offer, how do I renegotiate that thing without losing it in the process? A couple other resources that'll help you, and then we'll get right into today's content. On my Self Recruiter website, about halfway down the page, there's a very special version of this same lecture where you can see me large or the slides large. Really easy that way to use it as a start and stop tutorial while you're building a better LinkedIn profile yourself. Of course, please do like, comment, share, message, send it to your friends, all those fun things that do really help, and I greatly appreciate it. Over on my LinkedIn itself, you can connect or click on basically all of my postings and shares and get to a number of articles that will help you, like how to avoid the biggest mistake in job search. That's time mismanagement, the only thing we have. How your resume not become resume roadkill, things like that. How to supercharge your job search. The basics of becoming a self-recruiter, which covers all of my lecture series, is really about not letting someone else think for yourself. I live close to Chinatown, and in a normal world, pre-pandemic, I get into Chinatown about 8 o'clock in the morning, and if you've never been to Chinatown at 8 o'clock in the morning, oh my gosh, you can see a lot of really interesting things you never imagined. Like, I'm like everybody other New Yorker. I'm like, lead, follow, get out of the way. I got a lot going on. And then I look up and there's an entire hog walking down the street on top of someone's shoulder. And of course, I don't know if you've seen one of those things in real life. A lot of bacon on that thing. Huge, huge. My first thought is, why isn't this guy toppling over? But, pretty stout guy. But this was on his shirt. Don't let someone else think for yourself. Oh, the hog caught the attention, but boy, this resonated. We have to get out of the seat, put down that smartphone or tablet, get behind the wheel, or we're not going to get to that destination we're imagining. So our brand in the digital world, which is really what LinkedIn is, Twitter, Instagram, anything else you might be using as well, all leads us to this question of why social media matters, especially with all the, say, nonsense that has gone on in social media over the last few years. Well, social media is a very important influencer. Small changes change perception, and we can change perception there very easily because it's where the people are, it's where the connections are, it's where the decision makers are. I like the second from the bottom here. Ability with proper use of social media is to stay on the top of people's minds without, or seemingly without, having any contact with them. So they're always aware of what you're doing, your value, and everything else that you might bring. So it's really, really important. Now, let's think about a different question. Why will you get hired? Now, it's not because you're going to be capable and qualified. And please don't mishear that. I would not hire anybody I did not believe to be capable and qualified. That is never, in my approach, never the determining factor. I wouldn't look at anybody that didn't have that. It's chemistry, number one, above all other things in life. Number two, confidence. All of that is so important. The chemistry, the confidence. Why? Because, back when I was a recruiter many years ago, and I'll share my background with you, a lot of hiring managers would give me, I was placing sales individuals for enterprise level software. And so many of the sales managers would go, now, I don't want some two-headed monster. If I get stuck for 4 hours in the airport with this person, am I going to want to remove my own head? If we hire you, we're going to spend our waking life with you. That's why we want to like you. That's why the chemistry is so important. And the confidence is so important because, gosh, this confident person we imagine will deliver something more than the next 5 or 6 individuals that may want that job as well. So we have to think about those things and think about how we're going to move those things forward. But let's not forget why we're interesting, what makes us tick. That may have to do with your professional life, may have nothing to do with your professional life, and you may have to add that as a little sweetener to the story without it being disruptive. Boy, isn't that a troubling word, story? It leaves the connotation that something's not true, but absolutely everything has to be letter true. But I grew up Catholic. I know all about negotiating sin. There's no sin of omission here. There's only sin of commission here, meaning I can leave out any part of the story I'd like to leave out. All that dull administrative stuff that I never want to do again, I can just leave that out of my story. And I can only put in the really great parts of the story. So Don't forget the interesting and what makes you tick. On that note, let me just take you over to my Instagram for just a quick look. And if you go to my Instagram, which is Self Recruiter, you'll realize that there's nothing really there about my professional work life. It's all these kinds of things. I'm hiking up the Hudson Valley or out in Yosemite, going to the top of Half Dome. I made it to the top. All these kind of interesting, fun things that tell you why I'm interesting, what makes me tick, what drives me, where's my energy. Or about 3.5 years ago now, almost dying out in the California desert, just outside of Palm Springs, a painted canyon in August. I think it was about August 26th or 28th, something like that. One of those times that they said never hike in July and August, and it was 108 degrees, and nearly didn't make it back. So glad I did. Knock on some wood. But don't forget the interesting part of your story. And sometimes we hide these interesting bits away because we think it's not appropriate. There's a way to use whatever you're going to use to draw the attention and support what it is that you may do on a professional basis. So don't forget to share. Don't forget to showcase what they are. Check out my Instagram. You hopefully will like it. Small changes, just as you saw that stuff, change perception. It's a paradigm shift in communications and a paradigm shift for sure in the world of telling our career story. But I tell you what, that's part of the magic, and we have to think about that, and we have to be ready for it. You'll hear a lot more about this on Thursday during the interview intervention lecture, but it's your job to teach them how to select you as the very best individual. And that starts with the resume, continues in an expanded way, in my view, on your LinkedIn profile, and we have to think about it all. One of the traps I talked about in yesterday's resume renovation lecture, let me get a little coffee, is that everybody tries to be cookie cutter perfect. They're like, oh, fantastic, I'll be cookie cutter perfect, fantastic. Really? Okay, I'll take number three, I'm paying you less. No, you don't want less? Okay, I'll take number 2, take number 5. Doesn't really matter to me, you're all cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable. You now see what the problem is with the interchangeability. So to really achieve what you want, you have to be cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable, but you also have to be somehow different, exceptional, step out of line, and make sure that you're special. That's how you get a different title, a different responsibility package, a different compensation package. So for clarity between these two, resume, in my view, is catching or piquing that interest. LinkedIn is about closing the deal in their mind with you as the very best. Think about taking that single sheet of paper I talked about yesterday, which is this dazzling sales brochure. Get them in here. Get them on the phone. I must speak with them. That's the right resume. And then you transform that into a 3-dimensional sales brochure over on the LinkedIn side with much more information than is just on that single sheet of paper. Another way to think about it is the essence and value of your career on that single sheet of paper on the resume. And of course, that 3-dimensional sales brochure that drives them to one singular conclusion. My gosh, if I hire this person, work with this person, best business decision I'm going to make today. Now, on your resume, that's yesterday's lecture, just make sure that your contact line starts this way. LinkedIn profile on the far left, the nice clean URL. Don't put in that X24GW. We're going to clean that up, and I'll tell you how to do it today. City, state, nope. Don't really care that you live at 123 any street. That's not why we hire you. And email address and cell phone number, not your home phone number, your cell phone number. I don't care if you can't get your cell phone number in your house. It's your cell phone number that's on this document. Notice what's on the outside, easiest to get to. Of course, if they're not already sold holding my resume, they should click on my LinkedIn profile right away and get to the rest of my sales brochure about me. Now, we've gone through a lot of workforce changes over the last few years of the pandemic, and some of us are working fully remote, some of us are hybrid, some of us are fully back to the office. But as you go after different opportunities, it may be a mix of any of those. And if you haven't worked remotely, you're going to have to show it in one way or another, either through your dealings with offsite vendors, clients, partners, all of that end of it, or even things like doing conference calls or webinars, or maybe you've spoken at conferences. All of that can showcase you as being effective at a distance. Now, LinkedIn itself is really about networking, at least at its core. I like the second half here, creating this pool of contacts that can be leveraged to our benefit. Why is it that we feel like we have to do it the hard way? The hard way to me in job search is to click that darn button, which almost always says submit, all capital letters, until we're so submissive it's like a Friday night waiting for that phone to ring. It's going to ring. It'll be a telemarketer when it does, or a scammer. One of the telemarketers have all become scammers, or vice versa. Sorry for those in telemarketing. Tough life these days. But in job search, it's really about clicking that apply, and it goes off to HR, to some unknown screening process that decides whether we're worthy. Okay, I mean, I get the idea of it, but that individual, not to slam HR, but that individual is not trained in your background. They don't have the deep knowledge in your background, your specialty. They're working off some ridiculous checkbox list that was put together like taking a lunch order. What do you think we need? Oh, a little of this, a little salt, a little sugar, a little spice, till we have this checkbox list of nonsense, which somehow HR is supposed to use to find you. You know who knows exactly you're the right hire? The decision maker. Get yourself right in front of the decision maker. We'll show you how to do that today without stepping on too many toes. We're going to show you how to do that. So traditional networking is pretty limited. Colleagues, families, friends, all those kinds of things. And we go, oh, I'm so glad that's done. I get it. Nobody likes traditional networking. I'll make it in real life. Like I have to go do it. Yeah. Hi, it's John. The blood's draining out of me. Nobody likes it, really. Well, some do. I'm very good at it. That's a different thing than enjoying it. But, traditional networking, when we're thinking about it, that's the usual customary expected. The whole point of LinkedIn is to think in more unusual terms, unexpected, unconventional terms. Not as easy as just getting in the room and exchanging business cards and think something's really going to happen today. Though it could. It's still important. But it largely becomes a rut, this path we just keep back and forth until we're all these unhappy things about our situation, which is really a lack of control, which I talked a lot about yesterday. Change this equation of diminishing returns simply by changing the rules. These rules you never really agreed to in the first place. And that will get you to this place that I talked about, this unexpected, unconventional, unusual. Allows different thinking, creative interpretation, these light bulb moments, and suddenly clarity. Hopefully we're going to add some clarity today, just like we did yesterday for the resume. Whom should I network with? This is a really important question people want to think about. Are you worthy of connecting with? Let's just get to the answer. Everyone. I don't care if you're in India, Russia, China. I don't care if you're in janitorial services. None of it matters. Because when I connect with you, I get those 2 layers of network behind you that I own forever. If I could be connected to every person on the planet, I certainly would. So you don't know who someone's neighbor is, who someone's parent or child is, or who their friends are, or who they associate with. So everybody can be a good connection, especially with those 2 layers behind them that you then own forever. So think about all these places that you might go that you could network, or even in line at the movies, or waiting at dinner, or wherever it might be. But you got to be ready to strike up a conversation, and you got to have a business card, which would be really, really important these days. So to sum up this first part, link with as many people as possible, because that's not about what you think. That's just about expanding your access to information, not access to those particular people. And then take it to a new level. Now, before I show you how to maximize your profile as a selling brochure to raise your career brand, let me show you 2 recruiter techniques. Now, the rest of my background, in case you didn't hear it yesterday or didn't get to tune in yet yesterday, 7 or 8 years in outside recruitment. That's a traditional headhunter on a desk. 2 different disciplines as national market, 1 as local market. Was the national trainer across our 100 office recruiting system, teaching all those recruiters how hiring really works, not how people think it works, but how it actually works. And then being VP over all of that before really moving out to do what I do now over the last decade. And that is to work one-on-one with individuals to correct and fix and elevate their career branding, which very few people can do for themselves, because we're so emotionally close to the content, we can no longer really see it clearly the way we need to as a strategist. Before all of that, I was running a pre-press service bureau, so I really do understand line and type and spacing, whether it's on a physical resume or the digital world like LinkedIn. So let's get to the recruiter technique. Both of these techniques I used every day as a recruiter. They're very, very valuable. This first one will help you build a statistically perfect list of 30 organizations that would hire you tomorrow if they had an opening. There's the big unknown. But to start your job search with a statistically perfect list of someone that would go, oh, I need someone just like you, if they have a need. That's a game changer. So if you ever met with a recruiter and you were a superstar in your background, the first thing that individual does, besides going, oh, I'd love to work with you, I'll get calls out, let's see what happens, is they first go back and do this technique to build a list of 30 organizations to streamline their efforts, to increase their results. We can do the same thing. We're going to do it with our LinkedIn network, and we're going to go in and see how we can develop this list. It's called a one back, one forward technique. You're going to go into that unified search box at the top of any page on LinkedIn, and we're going to search for people just like us, not in every way, but in some way, shape, or form, just like us in some way, shape, or form. And I'm going to begin to open up all of those people's profiles until I get to 25 or 30 of those people. And then I'm going to, let's say I worked for Informatica as an example, big database middleware company. I could go back and find people that worked for Informatica, but made one job move forward. There's the one forward. And of course, before we were identical from working in Informatica, there'd be one job back. Okay. Now, a lot of these would be ones you might know, but many of them will be ones you didn't know. They were all on the same career path as you. What were the companies they worked at beforehand? What were the companies they worked at afterward? And a great number of those companies will be interested in your skill set. Make a list, begin to develop that list, prioritize that list as a stack rank as to what's most valuable to you. Second technique. This is really great if you're just out of school and would like to figure out what to do. It's also really great if you're mid-career and would like to reinvent yourself. Works in both ways. I'll give you examples for both. So I had a gal that called me up from Atlanta. She says, I think I need a career coach. I think I don't have a career. I'm like, oh, a little harsh. Send me your stuff. Let's take a look here. And she sends it to me. And, she was 3 or 4 years out of school, done a little of this, a little of that. Now she's managing a health club. By the way, nothing wrong with managing a health club. Doesn't want to do that. I can't find a career. I'm like, I can help you. Let's do some brainstorming. That's what this is, brainstorming. Problem solving. That's what your job search is constant problem solving. How do I teach them how to select me? How do I lift my brand? All of those things. So in this case, I said, well, I know this technique. Let's go in and search for someone just like you. And then we find people that made 3 steps forward because we'd like to not reinvent the wheel. I can simply discover the career path and how to maybe essentially go down that career path, what roles might be involved, and that will reduce my workload. I might even discover things I never knew. And so this individual, I have an example because this one's a little bit tougher to intellectualize. She went to Clark Atlanta University and she studied mass media. So I said, oh, that's great. Now, at the time I did this search a number of years ago, all these folks through the magic of search were 3, 4, 5 years out of school, just like my client. And they'd all gone to Clark Atlanta University and they all studied mass media. Doesn't matter where they're located because we're brainstorming. I said, well, what titles do you like? Oh, well, events coordinator. Oh, I would like to be an events. Oh, there's another events that were events at Warner Brothers. Oh, that sounds pretty interesting to me as well. Membership director at a nonprofit. Oh, very, very interesting. Let's come back and see that one. What's it? Oh, recruiter. I'd like to help people. I said, well, yeah, we'll talk about that later. Let's go up to this membership director, Tricia. How did she do it? What do you think her first job was? Membership associate. Her second job, membership manager. And voila, 3 steps in, she's membership director. Here's my client over on the right, Tahita. At the time, didn't really even understand that whole track. And I'm like, well, fantastic. They'll love your background because they hired someone just like you. That's a nonprofit and foundation. Why don't we go out there and introduce you and see who's interested? What role am I looking for? I said, well, it's going to be member services. I don't even know what that is. Well, I don't either, but apparently they're going to love the background. And of course, she found herself on the first step of her 3 steps to get to her career goal. I've been telling this story for a while. She's made 2 other moves, up to manager of member services and database, and finally up to director of membership operations for a nonprofit, Georgia Pharmacy Association. Entire career path down a track she didn't realize existed before our conversation. Brainstorm. It's how you change things. And then you have to change reality by changing perception. And those small changes do that. We're this product and we have to get this product ready. But you're going to have to start with a clear idea of what you want. It just can't be, oh, I'd take any good job. Well, that's not going to work for you. You have to have an idea so you can be right for that job, not right for any job. Success in this process is going to be determined by how much preparation you put into it, how much energy, thinking about those changes and the amount of reality that you'd like to see differently. Also keeping in mind how to be cookie cutter perfect and different at the same time. So let me show you a few of my shares before I show you the profile and take you through the individual parts. All of this affects perception here. I was doing an event at Morgan Stanley and I shared a group picture of that. I was doing one of my lectures at the New York Public Library and shared that. Doing a boot camp that I used to do online. It's going to go live online. It's going to go full-time online shortly here once I have all the materials in place. But someone captured the picture while I was given the online boot camp, and my father would have loved that. He was a Catholic deacon, so I'm in that pose all the time. Here I am at WHCR Voice of Harlem Radio. Been up there 3-4 times, maybe even 5. They all blend together. Wonderful part is it is 6 to 8 in the morning drive time, and so you got to get there like by 5:30, and that means I got to get up by 3 o'clock because I have to have breakfast and everything else, and slide into the headphones and mic, and of course my coffee and my book made the picture. I didn't quite make it into that one. Or starting to share your wisdom through articles or things like that you might share. All of that together becomes perception. Or here I'm piggyback sharing, really. This is a share from the radio show host who shared all the authors he had on that month. And there I am included with that. Running out the door to another lecture, I had to share another picture, but I can't share the same picture all the time. And I grabbed a picture that someone from my audience had sent me. This was after about 90 minutes of high energy, whatever. I'm showing them my ridiculously long email signature, and I'm greasy and embarrassed, and suddenly 1,500 views. Don't be afraid to break your brand a little bit and be a human being. That sells as well. Now, career branding and how to change it. Of course, LinkedIn has to become the centerpiece, but things like X or Twitter, whatever we want to call that thing, and even other platforms like Instagram all become part of the story about you. So you have to think about how you utilize those platforms without them all being identical, which is not interesting. What I do certainly is I take my LinkedIn and take Twitter or X, and I connect it so that everything that I share on LinkedIn can flow seamlessly out to Twitter, really doubling my advertising, never having to visit X or Twitter myself if I didn't want to. That really is all up to us. You think about the perception over time of seeing these shares one after another, along with my name and my headline, imprinting over and over and over, and really not being afraid to be a little bit different sometimes. Well, none of these shots, but maybe this last one. There we go. Anything that may draw a little bit of attention helps our career branding. As we go through our whole background, it's about answering one simple question. Why is it going to be the very, very best business decision they're going to make today if they choose to hire me for this project, if they choose to hire me to work on staff, whatever it might be that I'm going after? And that means the story itself has to be centered on the right items. What did I affect the organization, whether it's revenues, expenses, efficiency, inefficiency? Somehow it's always about performance and deliverables, not about duties and responsibilities, as I talked about yesterday. Duties are like duty. Nobody's really interested. I'm pretty sure if I was considering hiring you, I would already understand that you have the right duties and responsibilities. What I need to see is how did you affect the organization? What was your change? What did you bring? And that includes all the results. Let's get over the profiles and show you how to really raise the bar on your career branding. Now, you have to begin by thinking about what other people see when they look at you. When they look at you or you look at them, which is part of how we go after a job that I'll lay out, you're going to show up as having looked at them. 6 people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? I don't know if you look at that, but once you start looking at it, you can't really stop. And so this is how you might be seen on the free version. They're going to show you 5 people. So you have to think about this. If you're searching anonymously, why would they even look? Don't look here. You missed an advertising, marketing opportunity, really. Or Jonathan here is a founder and owner. That's great if you never want to be hired by anybody else, but we don't hire founders and owners because they don't listen to us. We can't tell them what to do, can't control them. If you need to be hired, though, why don't you simply get out of your way and move your ego out of the way, change those titles over to principal, which has the exact same effect, except it means I can manage you. I can control you. You can take direction. Deborah here, I love it. Fashion. She's got textiles, lighting, fashion, interiors. I have a direction. Thank goodness. She's got good energy. Fantastic. By the way, Jonathan does not work in the fashion industry, so this glam shot does not work. But I wish I had more detail. I mean, I don't really understand what Deborah's working on within that time frame. Brad here, corporate affairs and communications, global reputation management, government relations, crisis comms, looks the part as well. Of course, full disclosure, one of my clients. Your profiles are the world at your window. Think about retail. And that's a terrible time to be in retail. But if you were in retail and you're the manager, your job is to get people in the store. What are you going to put in the window to get people to come in that store? What are you going to put in that first look of your LinkedIn profile to get people to expand and fall into your story and like they have a dish of potato chips or bowl of popcorn, they just can't stop consuming your story. So that means we can't leave out the interesting or tick part of our story. Now let's go over to mine, and we're going to show you how to really use all of the space. Disregard my content, but look at how I utilize space. Let me get a little sip. So first impressions are really, really important. That means we have to think about absolutely using a banner shot. If we're not using a banner shot today, we're not even beginning to control our branding. Nope, you don't have to be in the banner shot. I'm a public speaker, so not very difficult to get myself into the banner. But the banner itself, as I grab a little tissue here, sorry about that. The banner itself can be a great number of things that are either literally tied to your career or even subliminally tied to what you do or your career or what you deliver. Its job, the banner that is not to disrupt your profile shot. They need to work in harmony. Profile shot, what are we looking for? Probably not the shot that you have up there. Sorry about that. We all get distracted by the things that we don't like. Like I look at my photos, I go, oh, where's my hair? Why is my nose so big? The things that we don't like that we have to get over in life. What we're looking for is energy, enthusiasm, drive, passion. Above everything else is presence. Can't really tell you what that stuff is, but we can tell you when we see it. This particular shot was a few years ago. I keep my hair cut just the same way so I can keep using the shot. But this was at City Hall with a couple friends getting married and hundreds of people all around. And the photographer just never posed this, just kept moving and shooting and moving and shooting and somehow got me isolated against the poles, creating some depth in the background, 3/4 shot. And I'm like, oh, I love this photo, and I didn't have to pay for it. I do give out his name a lot as a thank you. 3/4 shot. I wish I was looking at camera. It'd be even better. Public speaker, I can get away with the 3/4 shot. You, I think, need to be looking at the camera. Type over top of your picture, not if you'd like to be hired. Creates a barrier. If you'd like to be seen as an independent expert, it does quite well in lifting that branding there. Then your name, and then people start to go off track with this little mini information paragraph right below your name. They get lost over what the real function of this. They're so emotionally connected because there it is right below my picture, right below my name. But this isn't really about your profile, even though that sounds silly. This is really about your social media activity after you build the right profile. After you build the right profile and you begin to share things, comment in on things, connect with people, you know what happens? Small version of your picture goes with, your name goes with that, and this headline goes with that. This is not out to the 12,000 people I'm connected with. Public speaker. It's pretty easy for me to get connections. This is about the millions that I have in my 3-level network that have no clue who John Cant is. And this is all I can tell them. So how do I package it? Not simply your current or last employer or title. Snooze fest. Author and career coach, resume and LinkedIn career branding guru, featured speaker at the New York Public Library, Department of Labor, CUNY, and many others, quoted and seen in the Wall Street Journal, CNN, Forbes, Essence Magazine. Oh, look, you can contact this guy. Oh, and he's 500 plus. Brings us to a point that if you don't have 501 connections, you must get to 501 connections. So you're labeled 500 plus. And so people perceive you as a mover and shaker with a contact file or Rolodex that has everything they're ever looking. Of course, you might even start that about or summary section with a nice quote about yourself. Oh, this is a really nice quote. I love this quote. Wrote it myself, put it in quotes. There it is. I put my name right behind it. This is brand management. So begin to think about all these things, begin to think about how you're going to use a banner image that might work, how you're going to get the right profile shot that will balance out and work together with that, and really have everything work as it really needs to. Now, as we begin to think about all of this, these things are all marketing messages about us. How is it we're going to move this stuff forward? So all of it takes trial and error and clicking on the little pencil to edit and then going back to look at how it looks and go, not quite right. I have to go back and work again. Same thing with your images. It's trial and error to get just the right mix of all the things that you're after. As you go into the about or summary section, you'll notice here, same thing I taught in the resume lecture. In my view, other than a quotation, your sentence structure has to disappear. Nobody wants to read any longer. That means we have to figure out how we're going to communicate with them in a way that they can just look at it, absorb it, look at it, absorb it. Take these media hits here as an example. By the way, this section is so long. It's 2,000 characters of space. It's 3 screens long, in my view. I could have put these media hits in a much more succinct way, but then it would have taken an extra second or 2 or 3 to glance at it, intellectualize it, absorb it. There is no extra second, 2 or 3. Boom. They see the media list. Even if they don't read it all, it doesn't matter. Imprints, and they move to the next section. I highlight that I'm a featured speaker at New York Public Library, Department of Labor, and then I immediately put 8 more organizations afterward. But notice I didn't put a block of text. I put a block of text and suddenly nobody reads anything. So I had to break those up into chewable chunks because I can't let them miss NYC Service or America or Rainbow Push Wall Street Project or Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program or Harvard Business School of New York City. Can't miss that stuff. Still more room left, so I put in a few of my lecture topics in quotations so they're easy to grab. And then I rolled the dice on an entire paragraph out of my book. And I forget if I'd lost them by this point. I'd lost them, but I don't really think so. Then I make a little mention about my full service resume and LinkedIn recreation and renovation work. And then I begin to showcase things that I share in your activity box. Now, most people's activity box is empty. Empty. How good is that? Not very. This is a window to someone looking over your shoulder. What are you reading, doing, sharing, attending? Are you living and breathing your profession, or haven't you posted anything other than a congrats, Bob, 8 months ago? Doesn't really say much about you, does nothing to elevate your brand. If you had your finger on the pulse of your profession, you'd be sharing things about your profession you read, that you agree with, that you disagree with. All of those things influence others. As you get down to the traditional resume portion here, then it's really all about how do we utilize this space? And you might go, well, this doesn't look like a resume, John. Why would I have it look like a resume? Do those things work very well? Not for most people, although you should check out my resume renovation to make a resume that really sings your praises. This is about how you utilize this space to tell stories. So it's about breaking up your story in ways where you use the space that can be absorbed in chunks. So I tell them all about myself. I tell them about my book, tell them about being a featured speaker, and showcase all of that one more time in a different way. Because even though there's some redundancy in the profile, there's not one type of visitor. There's multiple types of visitors. And one type of visitor may or may not read everything. So you have to put all the relevant information into all the spots that they may look. And each one really embeds it a little bit further into their brain. So grouping and simplification really helps a lot. When you're all done, I'm a big believer in putting a little bit of all cap in there. No all cap, probably not going to read very much at all. Too much all cap, definitely probably not going to read much all top of what's here. It's a little bit about balance and finding that nuance in communications that they just can't resist. Here's some great examples of just a traditional 2-line bullet to absorb everything. Notice that I get to the end of my profile for the current role, self-recruiter. I skip a few spaces down and I put in a keyword block. Now, let's be clear. Most people never need a keyword block. If you need a keyword block, this is how you do it. And if you, I don't know if you've been reading any of that, but if you were reading really closely, you might see Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins, don't know quite how they're going to search him, Tori Johnson, 5 O'Clock Club, Stephen Covey, 92nd Street Y. All these things have absolutely nothing to do with why are they here, John? Those are all things you could search to find someone like John, and you won't find John because that's not my background. But I could put any of those things in my keyword block and it works perfectly. I still come up in the search results and I can rub elbows with anybody that's a mover and shaker in my field if I wanted to. Remember, all of this is trial and error. Don't be afraid. Try it, try it, try it. You have to see what works best. Go back and view it as an individual, and then also begin to share and add some content. Now, most of my content includes me because I'm a speaker, but for you, it's about articles or books or events that you see, things going on within your organization. If you have some shots around the office or at a conference, those kinds of things. A little further down, here's a technique I can show you. This is when I'm VP of the 100 office system, national recruiting firm. We did manufacturing, engineering, supply chain, logistics. Very absorbable, no distraction. And yet, if you were in any one of those fields, think about the storytelling technique. If you're in any one of those fields and you needed help reinventing your resume or LinkedIn profile, guess who would come right up in the search results? So think about this as a storytelling technique as you build your profile and the advantages. Now, much earlier in the career, associated clients, that could get you in trouble. So let's be careful there. Careful of those non-disclosures, trade secret agreements, all that kind of stuff. I had the right to share every single client that I had, and I shared every single client that I had after the fact, of course. If you worked at any one of these individual companies and you needed help reinventing your resume or LinkedIn profile, guess who'd come right up? So think about this storytelling technique. Now, if you'd like to get to that 501 connections and have endless new connections forever, copy and paste this next line you see right out of my profile itself. Invite me, all invites accepted, open networker, and Lion. That's how you get to 501 just in 4 days. Even if you had 0 connections, you can be there in 4 days. Go up to that unified search box, put each one of these phrases into quotations, click enter, and you're even on the free version, you get 10 or more pages easily of all people saying, oh, just invite me, no judgments, just invite me. Run right down that list, invite them all, and go back and do all invites accepted. Go back and do open networker. Line, of course, you don't have to put quotes around. It's a single one. You have a few that don't belong, like I work at Food Lion. I'm on the Lion team at the real estate company. Most of them are high volume networkers, those Lions, and all those connections are great connections. If you have publications, you can put a book or articles over into the publications module. I don't know why accounting likes me so much, or strategic finance, or even Wall Street seems to like me a lot. I've had clients everywhere, but never worked in those fields myself. You can put your book here as a reading list piece. You can also just put some of your ideas in a free blog, never having to visit again. Connected over here. It's another way to showcase what you bring to the table. Now, if you volunteer, anybody volunteer? Oh, I volunteer. Oh, not interested, because I realize now it's volunteering work. Well, you know what today is? This is volunteering. I guarantee it's real work. But if I use the volunteer module, we have such a dismissive nature in our culture. So I don't use the volunteer module for myself nor my clients. I use the organizations module, which has all of the benefit, none of the dismissiveness. Oh, this is how you align yourself, give back, blah, blah, blah. So it's another way to showcase. Now, don't be scared by the dates you see here. I'm a public speaker and have to show time, relevance, and skill. But this field doesn't require dates. So you can put your good works here, and good works do not expire. Whatever it is. Now, here's this same technique, by the way, right in that organizations module where I'm talking about the NYU Wasserman Center. And I was invited over there for a roundtable discussion and Q&A with a couple of the speakers, and I'm preparing for everything, connecting with people in advance. And I suddenly see John Levinsky here in the list here. He's got so many followers. I'm so jealous. Actually, I'm shy and introverted, but I'm really competitive. I'm like, oh, he's got more than me. Well, come on, John. He's been in the career for 30 years. He's got a lot going on. It's like, yes, but he's ahead of me. We may be thinking different things. I don't want more numbers than John Levinsky. I want John Levinsky's connections. That's what I want. And so by spreading a little sugar around, spreading a little credit around, you realize if someone searches Jessica or John or Vincent or the Wasserman Center, guess who else comes right up based on the storytelling technique? Endless new connections forever. So think about all those things that affect your brand. Skills and endorsement modules, so important. 50 words or phrases about your skill set. You need to put them in here. They're going to group them for you. This is another way on the back end people can dial up looking for you. So you don't have to be an expert in everything here. No one's an expert at 50 items. But if I touched this laptop's on the list. Yeah, I don't know. That's a very low threshold. But everything most important goes in, and then everything else you've been exposed to, because they might go, we need someone that's really good at this, this, and this, also has exposure to ad agency. But I only worked in ad agency six months. There you go. You got exposure to it. Put it in there. All of those things can be very, very important. So really give a lot of thought to this, and then get as many votes as you can to really pump up those numbers to support things. A lot of detail can go in all of that background. Get written recommendations. In a perfect world, I'd love you to have 4, 5, or 6 of them. I think I have 52, 53, 54, something like that. The biggest mistake is telling people what to write. Oh, could you write about this, this, this? Absolutely, your friend will do that. Something dull and uninspiring, because they're not going to be inspired to, you put a flashlight in their eye. Why don't you not put a flashlight in their eye, and instead simply, when they say, what would you like me to write about? Whatever you'd like to, as little, as much as you'd like to say, here's the word, whatever you genuinely feel. I'm sure it'll be fine. And I am sure it'll be fine, because it can't go live unless you approve it. And if you give them that kind of direction, you'll be shocked at what people, in a good way, you'll be shocked at what people will say about you. It's like, oh, they see me that way? Well, I am that way, but they see me that way. It's a good ego boost as well. And also give them out. You want to get something great, give them first. And then LinkedIn kind of strong arms them. It's like, here's an endorsement from John. Don't you want to endorse John? Think about those things. Groups. A lot of groups. There's self-recruiter group. I love that group. You should think about that group. But people don't really understand group strategy. If you're a member of a group, it's almost like being connected. Not the same thing as being connected, but almost like being connected. You can see their profiles. You can see their shared content. When you share something, it could potentially land on their desktop or even in the group. Remember, it's not going to land on all these people's desktops, but the algorithm that governs our destiny wants to make good connections with things that matter. Follow some influencers. Oh, look at that. I'm following Tony Robbins, mostly so I can maybe get behind him on stage, give him a little push, get a little long in the tooth, gonna make some room for the rest of us. Get to those 500 connections. They're really, really important. Be seen as that finger on the pulse individual that can really deliver. Unified search box. Talked to you about this earlier. Go up here and you simply put invite me in quotes. Yep, you get a few that have invite me or invite me kind of thing in their profile, but most of them are all people that want you to invite. Just run down the list, invite them all. It doesn't really matter. All invites accepted, open networker, and of course, Lion. And you get a few that don't belong there, but most of them, as you see, are high-powered networkers. All of that can really benefit you. Wherever you are in your process with LinkedIn, understand this is a live document, just like your resume is a living document, where you have to constantly be looking and thinking about your brand value. Did I speak about myself the right way? Did I introduce doubt by like throwing myself under the tire with a comment? Culturally, we do that all the time. We fail to realize what it does for us. Wherever you are, take your first step and repeat, 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 and let's get this stuff moving. Now, in the last few minutes here, I want to teach you how to use LinkedIn for job search itself. Build out a great profile. This is, by the way, part of the magic that we have to get to. So if one of my clients calls me up and says, oh, John, I want to go after this job. Fantastic, fantastic. Don't apply for it. I'm like, what? How do I get the job if I don't apply for it? Well, we could apply for it, but that's very similar to stopping at the bodega to buy a lottery ticket, which I do on occasion. Hasn't worked out for me. I don't know if that's worked out for you. Little fun, and hopefully supporting education or whatever else it's going toward. But if that merry-go-round is not working for us, why don't we just step off that merry-go-round and try something different to get a different result? So to me, it's about reversing the whole process, building those 30 organizations that we started this lecture about, how to build that list, build those 30 organizations that would be statistically perfect to hire you. Good recruiter does that. Then they don't bother to look at the company websites for job postings. They simply pick up the phone, call 30 managers at 30 companies, and boom, every time 2, 3, or 4 go, oh, we need a person just like this. You do? Tell me about your need. They position themselves to get struck by lightning without wasting time. You can do the same thing. You have to think like a problem solver. It's your job to devise the steps. Think backward. Which John's saying isn't possible, but if it was, how do I align the sun, the moon, the stars to make this possible? Open up a pathway. Discover the decision makers. Well, we're going to show you that really, really easy coming up here as part of this process. Overcome their objections because it's their job to object to you. You shouldn't be put off because they go, well, you don't have this background. Thank you for asking. I can't wait to make my case to you. And you should be excited when they object to you because they're listening. Get a meeting with them, dazzle them, have them either give you the job or create the job. But how do I get to those decision makers, the boss, boss's boss, or anybody else I'm after? Back to that unified search box. In this case, I'm going to search Informatica, big database middleware company. Used to be one of my cash cows as a recruiter. Now you get a drop-down menu. Don't click on that. That's a trip down the rabbit hole. Just type what you'd like, hit enter, and you suddenly get this nice secondary sorting process. I am looking for the people at Informatica, but as long as I'm here, there must be other companies I'm not thinking about. Another way to build statistically perfect list of companies. Click on companies, and suddenly we're like, 34,000 companies, and a great number of them are named Informatica. But once you get past that, who are all the rest of these? I can tell you. Almost all of them are system integrators. They either install or resell Informatica software. If I'm right to work for Informatica, I am very likely right to work for a great number of these organizations. This can expand your target list, but then I really have to find people. So I go back over and I go, no, show me the people. And what do I get? 2.5 million cold and in the ground before I get through that list. I'm going to have to put on my thinking cap, even on the free version. I only use the free version. And so in this case, I have to think about, well, why am I getting 2.5 million? First off, I don't need people that worked at Informatica 3 years ago. So even on the free version, I toggle, I say, well, maybe first off, show me the ones in the US, really in the US, and really currently working for Informatica, because I don't need the ones overseas, and I don't need the ones from 3 years ago. And what do I get? 1,615 results. But I can't really look at that list either. I won't get very far. And I have to begin to narrow it down, and I have to begin to put in some keywords. Maybe it's a VP who's going to hire me. A VP is going to hire me, I think. Really? US, really? Informatica. And suddenly I get 75 VPs. Ooh, a lot of chiefs in that company. Maybe it's a director. Maybe let's try director, really US, really Informatica. What do I get? 228 directors. Going the wrong way. Wait a minute. I have. It's a sales director. It's a sales director that's going to hire me. Sales director, simple, because it's problem solving, folks. Really US, really currently work from Informatica. What do I get? 3 in the New York City area. Because why don't I just bring it right down to the area I'm looking for, even on the free version? Now, I want you to find 3 to 5 people. And in this whole process, I am collecting 25 to 30 people in this whole process that I believe somehow surround the job I'm going after, up the food chain, down, left and right into other departments. But I am looking for 3 to 5 real targets, people that would be involved in the discussion to hire a person like myself. You might give up going, I have three, but your odds would be better if you had 5. So I could go back and go, maybe there's a sales VP really in the New York area, all that kind of stuff. And 2 more. Now I'm up to 5. Fantastic. I can open all of these profiles, not just these 3 to 5, but all 25 to 30. I show up looking at people and they see me in my headline. We need a person just like that. What's his name? Open my sales brochure. Ask them all to connect with a message that I write one time ever. Copy and paste forevermore. Communicate you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to your ego. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche, or niche, depending how we like to say that, comment. And of course, love to add you to my LinkedIn professional network here. Some of them say connect, some of them say InMail. I hope you understand what InMail is, which is spam, the literal definition of spam. It is paid email. Please don't send it. My inbox is filled with well over 1,000 unopened nonsense messages, losing some of the good messages because there's endless spam that I don't need. But I really do want to connect with Nick. So if I go to his profile, I still get frustrated with his InMail. But if I just click the ... suddenly they just hid the connect one over behind the tree. I'll just hide that over here. They'll never find the connect button over here. There it is. So they can't, their business is connected. They can't really stop you. So connect with these individuals. All of this will help you. This one-time message that will help you one time ever, and copy and paste forevermore. Track it all in a process. By the way, you can go to my Self-Recruiter website, click the advice tab, which is my blog, look for the job search management system. It's all free. You can download a way to manage and grow your process wherever you are in your process of either rebuilding your career brand on LinkedIn and elevating it, or actually managing your career search itself. Take your first step and repeat, 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 repeat. That's your job. Today's lecture is building your career brand with LinkedIn and how to use it for your job search. Hope you've enjoyed this, and please do like, comment, share with your friends. Thursday, I will be back. That's with interview intervention, really teaching them how to select you as the best individual. That's your job, not simply answer their questions. Teach them how to select you as the right one. That's on Thursday, 10 a.m. If you missed the resume renovation, which was yesterday at 10 a.m., all of the lectures will be available after they are broadcast on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube channel, which is Self-Recruiter, and on my Facebook. So thank you guys for joining in. Here's one last look of the dates. And if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out. Check my Self-Recruiter website. Everything's available under the services tab. And if you need to chat before knowing which package might be right for you, just reach out and we'll have that conversation. Thank you guys, and talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.